Peace out. What's up, guys? Back with another video. And today, we going crazy. Already got my first win. 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 Already got my alright. Alright guys, so today we already got our first one, already got my first, already. Dream on.
I give a love. I got to talk.
Hey, I shot at the commissioner too, and you got over it. So we're good.
Reckon we crash land this poppy there.
I love this part!
We ought to go here.
Mac Bowls are back. And
Mac Bowls.
we start with a 3 cheese blend of Parmesan, Colby, and cheddar to make our legendary mac. Then we top it off with our famous tenders and secret ingredients. Download the Slim Chickens app and order online.
Chat. Have to see me go cooking.
While you were out in the sunshine, I was stuck in the rain.
Tell you about to see me go cooking.
Hey guys, John here from Fast Films, and today we're covering a 2006 American action movie called Snakes on a Plane. The film starts off in the magnificent coastal city of Hawaii, where a guy rides his dirt bike across a track very skillfully. He rides through the forest and arrives at a place where he witnesses his wounded father hanging upside down. His father advises the boy to leave at once. He hides away in the bushes and watches in horror as a guy named Eddie Kim arrives wearing a white suit and uses a baseball bat to dismember his father, who's a prosecutor. The terror engulfs him and he escapes on his bike. Later, he sits in his house under extreme trauma. He watches the news where the death of his father is broadcasted when suddenly some breaks in his door locks. Upon looking through the door,
What did I tell
the
y'all
boy
to?
notices Eddie's men waiting to
Don't
kill him
play
outside.
with me.
In order to save himself, he runs to the back where another man forces him behind the wall and proceeds to kill the perpetrators. Afterwards, both of them escape the house and the new guy introduces himself as Special Agent Flynn from the FBI. The boy introduces himself as Sean. Flynn asks him why didn't he go to the police if he witnessed Eddie committing a murder, upon which Sean simply states that he isn't sure if the cops are crooked or not. The agent admires his intelligence and takes him in for questioning and provides him the clear-cut picture of what will happen if he doesn't cooperate. Sean still doesn't say anything, but Flynn manages to convince him to testify against Eddie Kim in LA. The scenario then shifts to Honolulu International Airport, where the camera pans through 2 air hostesses making their way towards the flight. Meanwhile, 3 famous rap artists get surrounded by fans. The 3 Gs spread autographs and walk towards the boarding terminal. In the interim, the hostesses make it to the airplane and others surprise one, named Claire, upon her transfer. They all celebrate while we see another passenger lady with a chihuahua greeting a couple sitting across from her. On the other hand, Claire gets the message from the captain that the FBI is escorting someone to LA and they forcibly booked all of the first-class seats and she has to be the one to break the news to them. During all the boarding, the camera pans to 2 workers. One of them states the flight number to someone on call while another guy sprays the Lay's flowers with pheromones. In the meantime, Flynn walks up the first class with Sean while Claire has to deal with frustrated passengers of first class who now have to travel in the coach. As Sean settles in the luxurious comfort, Flynn walks up to talk to his friend, Agent Harris, about Eddie Kim. Harris assures him that Eddie isn't going anywhere. Meanwhile, the situation turns to the coach below, where a corporate guy gets annoyed by the chihuahua and the woman who sits beside him with her baby. The rude man gets up in exasperation and leaves. Just then, the 3 Gs also enter the coach and start commenting on a fat woman. Meanwhile, the girl with the dog admirably stares at the rapper. Down below, two young boys also get prepared to travel solo. After everyone gets settled in, the hosts and hostesses stand in the aisles while the pilot gives the initial briefing. In Sean's cabin, a pretty hostess walks in with her front buttons undone and Sean enjoys every single bit of the show. After the plane flies into the air, everyone gets on with their usual business and the hostess comes to Sean in order to introduce herself as Tiffany. Sean tells her about his testimony, upon which the girl gets marveled. The camera then pans to the cargo area where we witness hundreds of snakes being held with a timer of 2 hours ticking its way to carnage. Up in the coach, everyone goes on with their usual routines. Another Asian passenger gets seated who's in for kickboxing. Meanwhile, Flynn also makes his way downstairs and proceeds to talk to Claire, who gets a little annoyed with him for commandeering the plane on such a short notice. Flynn takes it lightly and moves away. On the other hand, the rapper calls the Chihuahua girl, named Mercedes, to sit next to him and talks to her. Mercedes gets all flirty and lets her dog, Mary Kate, run all over the rapper, who gets extremely uncomfortable with that. Down at the cargo hold, the timer strikes 0 and with a blast, the whole container erupts and the snakes start to spread around the space. The events take a turn as the horny couple goes to the lavatory and disables the smoke alarm from the ceiling. They smoke a blunt and proceed to make out passionately, but the snakes slither down the opening in the ceiling and attack them brutally. They both start shrieking and pounding against the lavatory's door while the steward and air hostess observe the moans in enjoyment. Little do they know, the snakes have turned vicious. They bite away at the circuit systems of the airplane, causing them to lose the avionics. Meanwhile, the serpents slither their way into the coach and gradually spread everywhere. A girl dodges one with just a few inches. On the other hand, a guy goes into the lavatory to pee but gets ravaged by a serpent who bites into his manhood. The guy screams and jumps in hysteria, inflicting himself with a fatal injury. Meanwhile, a snake also crawls his way up to the drunk woman, who starts to enjoy the feel of it. Unfortunately, another inconvenience looms over them as the plane enters the turbulence zone under extreme weather. It starts to shake and everyone gets alert. In the meantime, one of the pilots goes down to reset the breakers for the avionics circuit, but gets struck by the vicious snake. The poison dives into his body and the poor man expires. Rick and Claire notice his immobility and Rick brings him up while Claire runs to the first class to bring Agent Flynn and Agent Sanders. As they analyze the whole distressing situation, Rick begins to fly the plane alone while Claire runs back to the coach to administer the people. She consoles the little boys and assigns them a game for distraction. During this, the turbulence exceeds normality and the luggage starts to fall down. The passengers get worried. Meanwhile, Rick faces another dreadful situation as snakes start to slide their way in the consoles. He hits them with the notebook and accidentally deploys the oxygen masks in the coach, which brings down all the hell on the passengers. As the upper compartments open, the snakes also drop along with the oxygen masks. All hell breaks loose as the serpents start attacking everyone and the situation aggravates into a disrupted commotion. People start screaming as the snakes invade the whole place. The drunk lady gets bitten in the eye while others run for their lives. The snakes wreak havoc on the whole cabin, and even Agent Sanders becomes the victim of their venomous bites. Flynn uses his electric taser to clear the way, but people start dying. Claire and others manage to move them forward and try their best to cope with the situation, but the snakes become relentless. In the meantime, a massive cobra appears in front of the two boys and bites Tommy's arm, while another guy gets killed in the stampede. The rapper, named Clarence, also runs to the lavatory to hide himself, but the dead carcasses of the couple drop on him. The aggravation escalates and everyone runs for their lives. After securing most of them, Flynn orders them to use the bags to build a wall against the snakes in the coach. Everyone starts piling up the bags, but the camera then shows us Mercedes stuck in the coach with a snake advancing towards her in a threatening way. But luckily, the kickboxer comes in just in time to save her. Mercedes hops on his back and they both run away. On the other hand, Flynn and Claire find the boys while Tommy's arm can be seen severely injured. Just then, another elderly hostess named Grace hears a kid's babble in the coach. She breaks the protective wall and runs inside to find the baby sitting inches away from the snake. She picks him up in one scoop but gets bitten in the back. Nevertheless, she runs back, returns the baby to his mother and staggers to safety. The situation intensifies as Agent Sanders eventually expires and Flynn calls Agent Harris to inform him about the whole incident and how Eddie Kim has managed to fill the whole plane with poisonous snakes in order to kill every single person on board. Harris acknowledges the gravity of the situation and orders everyone in his office to locate a snake expert for him. Back in the plane, Sean offers his help, but Flynn admonishes him and orders him to stay put. Downstairs, one member of the 3Gs, who's bitten in the butt, gets taken to suck the venom out, but he refuses to let it happen. Just then, we witness the deteriorating situation of Tommy's arm. The mother present on the spot uses her skills to suck the venom out. Meanwhile, the rappers enjoy the show despite the grave conditions. In the meantime, Agent Harris manages to meet Dr. Price, who's a snake expert. They take him in the car and Harris calls Flynn to talk to the doctor. Dr. Price indicates that there must be something in the plane that is triggering the snakes. It might even be pheromone, causing hyperaggression. As Flynn talks to the doctor, the passengers lose their cool and force their way up to the first class to confront Flynn. Sean gets up and clarifies everything. Upon that, Flynn gets ahead to lead them and orders them to grab all the dead snakes so they can be identified for the anti-venom. Meanwhile, in the cockpit, Rick gets bitten as well and drops down the hangar. On the other hand, Mercedes offers her phone to email all the pictures to Dr. Price so that he can identify the snakes and get the anti-venom. Unfortunately, the plane gets unstable as there's no pilot now. Flynn orders everyone to buckle up and runs to the cockpit where Claire is fighting with a massive snake. She manages to kill him and both of them manage the controls to lift the plane back up, but the effort goes futile. Back at the coach, the killings rise in rate as snakes invade the place again. Sean offers everyone to run upstairs to first class and everyone forces their way on the stairs. Just then, a gigantic anaconda drops from the ceiling and the monstrous serpent slithers his way towards them. Unfortunately, the stairs can't bear the weight and the bars break. Everyone falls down and the corporate guy gets engulfed by the anaconda. Everyone else runs to the first class and tries to block the stairs. Meanwhile, Flynn contacts the control tower who urges them to pull up at once, and just before hitting the ocean surface, Flynn and Claire successfully manage to pull it up and save it from the crash.
You wouldn't settle for good enough here. So why would you here? Recover with the world's #1 best-selling whey protein powder and make your workout worth the effort. Once there was a place in the woods where they sent people who didn't.
In the meantime, Rick also appears from the cabin, but the AC gets turned off, along with other HVAC systems. On the other hand, Dr. Price identifies all the snakes as exotic and illegal and tough to find in the US, therefore the anti-venom will even be tougher to locate. Back on the plane, Clarence loses his cool and starts pushing everyone in anger, but his buddies manage to calm him down and he sits back in his place. Just then, the tragedy hits the aircrew as Grace dies due to the venom. Claire mourns heavily on the loss, but Flynn consoles her and proceeds to turn on the AC from the cargo area. Claire offers him a DIY flamethrower and he proceeds downstairs through an entangled mess of wires and reaches the HVAC board after fighting off the snakes. After struggling heavily, he manages to put the AC back on and everyone upstairs gets a huge sigh of relief. The scene now shifts to a desert area where the FBI raid a guy's compound for holding illegal snakes and other charges. The guy runs for his safety, but Harris catches up to him and he gets bitten by his own snake. Harris forces the guy to hand him the list of snakes he sold to Eddie Kim, along with the anti-venom for all these exotic snakes. Back at the plane, Flynn comes back up like a hero and everyone shows him gratitude for providing them with air to breathe. Moreover, he gets the good news from Harris about the anti-venom, but unfortunately, they find Rick dead in his cabin. Now as they have to land, only one of the gamer guys from 3Gs named Troy knows how to fly an airplane. Flynn gets extremely frustrated with the snakes and states to get rid of them once and for all. In order to carry out their plan, everyone holds fast to the seats while Flynn shoots at the window to break it. The extreme air pressure causes everything to fly out along with the snakes. During the extreme turbulence, Tiffany almost flies out in the air, but Sean saves her just in time. On the other hand, Troy and Flynn struggle their way in the cockpit and get seated. Troy gets overly excited and calls the control tower, where the officials get annoyed by his inexperienced and unprofessional behavior. Nevertheless, Flynn forces that he's the only one who knows the controls. Therefore, Troy gets confident in himself and orders them to clear all the runways. In the meantime, he briefs all the passengers to brace for the landing and he maneuvers the plane towards the runway and successfully plants it on the ground but doesn't slow it down. Flynn gets hysterical, but Troy finally swerves it to a side and brings it to a halt. After a moment of silence and realization, they start cheering and everyone sighs in relief as now they are safe and sound on the ground. At the airport, the rescue services arrive, the police arrive and everyone surrounds the plane. They land an air slide and escort all the passengers out. In the meantime, Harris and Dr. Price also arrive with the vaccine and administer the wounded, including Tommy. Meanwhile, Flynn thanks Sean for his assistance and help in the plane, but Sean gets attacked by a vicious snake in the chest. As he shrieks in terror, Flynn shoots the boy in the chest and he falls down the slide. Tiffany and Claire stand aghast and they run up to him to find him totally safe due to the bulletproof jacket. As everyone is now safe, the final moments of the move arrive where we witness Flynn. Tiffany and Claire stand aghast and they run up to him to find him totally safe due to the bulletproof jacket. As everyone is now safe, the final moments of the move arrive where we witness Flynn asking Claire out for a date while Sean receiving a passionate kiss and phone number for Tiffany. Sean and Flynn
It's time to reconnect with travel. Kayak searches hundreds of travel sites and shows you which hotels and vacation rentals have free cancellation, so you can spend the rest of 2021 doing what you do best. Kayak. Search one and done.
You know, I'm going up, and I've been noticing a few changes from you. You sent me 43 text messages this week. I think you started to go through puberty. Gross. Look, this app is called Life 360. It'll send you notification like when I leave school or when I get to practice. There's even crash detection for when I start driving. Life 360 has tons of ways to keep me safe and you from being so awkward.
Start living Life 360.
Hello people, John here from Fast Films, and today we're covering a 2009 American thriller movie called Sorority Row. The film begins with a wild party at a sorority house. The girls going crazy, the couples getting ravenous at each other, and guys kicking off with the maidens. In all of that mess, 5 girls gather in a room to drink up shots for their senior year. The leader, Jessica, asks Claire to bring up the shots while Ellie, Chugs, and Cassidy gather around. They tell each other's qualities and drink up. During their procession, Cassidy asks for Megan and it's known that she's in bed with Chug's brother, Garrett. Jessica turns on her laptop and all of them start watching their romance. As Garrett proceeds to kiss Megan, everyone senses that Megan isn't moving. Suddenly, she starts spitting foam out of her mouth. Garrett gets back in fright and all the girls run up to save their sister. Garrett stands there berserk, stating that he simply gave her the pills Jessica asked him to. Jessica starts giving CPR to Megan while Garrett grabs the keys for the car to start it. In the meantime, Megan wakes up totally fine and it's revealed that the girls were doing a prank on the poor guy because he cheated on his already cheating girlfriend. Nevertheless, they don't let go of the prank and they drag Megan's body to the car. Inside, everyone plays their role in the prank while Garrett goes hysterical. The girls laugh behind him and carry on the prank while Megan plays dead. At last, they arrive at an isolated place and stop by a lake. Garrett starts vomiting while the girls drag Megan out of the car. They laugh at his situation while deciding how to dismember her body so it doesn't float up the water. Meanwhile, Megan starts recording everything on her phone. During all of this, only Cassidy is concerned about the situation and she talks with Jessica, but she simply remarks that they're doing it because it's funny. Unfortunately, their fun transforms into a tragedy as Garrett comes with a tire wrench and plunges it down Megan's chest. The girls scream in terror while Garrett confirms that there's no air in her lungs now. The girls rush to Megan's side as she starts bleeding excessively. Garrett gets flabbergasted once he realizes that it was all a sick joke. Jessica stands there in horror watching Cassidy trying to stop the bleeding. But it all goes in vain as Megan expires. As the tragedy settles on them, Jessica presents the idea to leave the body at once, but Cassidy disagrees. After that, a heated argument begins between the sisters as Jessica asserts to leave Megan here and not let the incident ruin their lives. Everyone agrees except Cassidy, who walks away to get a call for reception. Behind her back, the rest of the girls drag Megan to a mineshaft nearby and dump her body down the deep hole. Just then, Cassidy comes back running and stares in horror as Jessica tells her that they've dumped the body after wrapping her with Cassidy's coat. The sisters turn against her and plaster the blame of the murder on Cassidy. With that being said, everyone returns to the party. 8 months later, the whole batch graduates while Cassidy's boyfriend, Andy, gives the final speech as valedictorian. Afterwards, the whole Theta Pi sorority group celebrates, but Cassidy doesn't join them. Later, the scene shifts into the bedroom where Andy and Cassidy drown in their pleasures. Afterwards, he asks her about the Theta Pi, but Cassidy simply refuses to answer it. To make it up to her, he pulls her back to the bed. The camera now flips to the sorority house where the couple walks in with Andy's parents. They meet Jessica on the way and after a little argument she excuses herself. In the meantime, Ellie reveals that Chugs is busy in an orientation session with the freshmen, and we then witness the overwhelming orientation. Nevertheless, the scene shifts to the yard where Jessica delivers a final speech of honor, trust, secrecy and solidarity on the behalf of Theta Pi. In the interim, a girl walks among the crowd and the girls mistake her for Megan, which causes Ellie to freak out and faint. Later, Jessica barges in and states that the girl was Megan's sister. Just then, the girl walks in and introduces herself as Maggie. She apologizes to Ellie and states that she wants to be a part of Theta Pi, but Jessica simply pushes her out of the kitchen, stating that she can't be part of the sorority this year. She leaves reluctantly, and just then, Jessica's and Claire's boyfriends walk in and they joke around for a moment. Jessica sends the boys out to grab the decoration products when suddenly, every one of them gets a text image of the bloody tire wrench on their phones. The girls freak out, but Chug solidifies them by stating that it's just her brother, Garrett. She further explains that he has gone psycho after the incident and he's just messing around. Everyone deletes the picture and proceeds on with their regular lives. Cassidy calls Andy and requests him to be at the party for her, and he politely agrees. The scene then shifts to the sorority house where the house mother, Mrs. Crenshaw, gives the farewell speech while advising them to always do the right thing. At the end of it, she presents each of them a bracelet as a reminder of their sisterhood. Upon wrapping it up, she leaves and the girls throw away the cheap bracelets. The scene then shifts to the house where the girls start preparing for the party. Meanwhile, Claire invites her boyfriend, Mickey, into the bathtub out in the open air. On the other hand, we see Chug's going to meet someone named Dr. Rosenberg. She finds the house empty, but upon coming to the bedroom, she locates him being handcuffed to the bed in his undergarments. Chug scoffs and proceeds to the bathroom to get prepared. In the interim, Dr. Rosenberg senses someone else in the house as well. He hurriedly takes the handcuffs off and gets up to look for the intruder. Suddenly, a black hooded figure throws a tire wrench towards him and it plunges into his forehead. In the meantime, Chugs calls Jess and states that she'll be late to the party. Afterwards, she gets out and finds the bed empty. Sighing in exasperation, she walks to the lounge and sinks on the couch. Just as she starts drinking the vodka, someone pushes the glass bottle down her throat and smashes it with the iron wrench until Chugs dies agonizingly. In the meantime, Jessica goes to dinner with Kyle's father, who's a senator. He starts judging Jessica whether she's beneficial for Kyle or not. Jessica assures she'll always be careful, and just then, Kyle arrives and they start to talk normally. On the other hand, Ellie walks to the basement while Cassidy discusses the situation with Jessica. She replies indifferently and proceeds to take a shower. The camera then pans to the girls' area where Claire takes a bath and suddenly senses someone. Luckily, it turns out to be a junior who gets bumped by Jessica for using the senior bathroom. On the other hand, another junior observes them and silently slides back into her cabin. Unfortunately, Claire suddenly discusses Megan's death and the junior overhears it. The ladies leave the area, but the junior gets attacked by the hooded serial killer and she dies brutally with a custom iron wrench. Back at the house, Ellie walks in the basement to look for the vodka when she suddenly notices Cassidy's bloodied coat hanging on a hook. She almost freaks out and suddenly, Kyle appears behind her and asks what is wrong. Ellie doesn't answer and leaves immediately to explain the situation to all her girls. Ellie whimpers in fright while everyone else deduces a logical reasoning behind it. At the end, it all comes down to Garrett and they blame the prank on him. The situation with Theta Pi gets tense while the party at the house rocks on. People go crazy under the overwhelming alcohol and jump into the extravagant overflowing bubble bath. On the other hand, Andy and Cassidy discuss leaving the party at once. In the meantime, Claire gets annoyed by Mickey hitting on her and they break up. As Claire walks away in anger, Mickey proceeds to smash the other girls, but everyone rejects him. He walks out to find Ellie sitting alone in melancholy and he tries his attempt on her but gets rejected as well. He tries his luck with the other two but gets rejected as well. Ellie catches him hitting on various women and he proceeds to apologize to her. On the other hand, Cassidy comforts Claire by stating that Mickey wasn't worth it. As they talk, we witness Mickey walking to the upper floor to apologize to...
Singing and driving,
Playing the drums.
don't send emojis, go hug your mom. Drive to the airport, show him some love.
Sometimes the best friends nowhere at all.
If you were trapped in a deadly escape room that will kill you if it isn't solved in time, what would you do? These puzzles are nearly impossible to survive, and every second you waste brings you closer to death. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the death rooms in Escape Room 2. This woman is about to get herself killed. She plans to leave her husband tonight and enters his office to find him buried in his latest work. This man is the designer of the brutal escape rooms for the first movie, and he's working hard on his next masterpiece. She tells her husband she's leaving him, and he begs to talk about this later. The woman agrees to his request, with no idea that this was her biggest mistake. She decides to take a break in the sauna sauna and clear her head, when suddenly 3 metal rods lock the door shut. The woman tries to force it open, but it won't budge. This room has turned into a deadly puzzle, and she begs her husband to let her out, but there's no response. That's when she finds a message on the glass door that reads, "I grow in earth, I shrink in wind, I drown in water, I survive in fire. What am I?" With time running out, she solves the riddle, realizing that there must be something hidden in the sauna's heater. Looking in the hot rocks, she finds one that looks different than the others and opens it up to discover a magnet hidden inside. With the temperature reaching fatal levels, she tries to slay the metal rods with the magnet and begins to unlock the door, but it's too late. The room is too hot to survive, and she dies before she can escape. Okay, this woman was not using her brain. First of all, if your husband designs deadly escape rooms for a living, then you shouldn't break his heart and then go downstairs to relax in a steam room. If I were going to break up with a criminal mastermind, I would have left without telling him and hired a notary service to deliver him the divorce papers instead. She knew exactly what her husband did for a living and should have realized that this sauna is a death trap waiting to happen. In 2010, a Russian man died in the World Sauna Championship trying to endure 230-degree heat for as long as possible. And if a hardcore Russian died within 6 minutes of exposure, I'd say this lady has only 3 minutes or less to escape. Now, the biggest mistake is to waste time on things that you know won't work, and that's exactly what this woman did. Her first instinct was to call her husband for help after asking for a divorce, which is a serious time waster. The most logical thing to do in this situation is to think about how to neutralize the threat first, before considering how to get out. The source of danger is coming from the heater, and the only thing she has at her disposal is a towel, a shower head, and a pile of rocks. She can't stop the room from heating, but she can definitely limit its effects if she acts fast. The first thing I would do is use the towel to take out all the hot rocks, because if the water doesn't hit them, then steam won't be produced. The more water particles there are in a sauna, the more they will come into contact with you and transfer heat to your body. This could cause the skin and other bodily tissues to scald. Without steam, she'll be able to tolerate the heat and be able to breathe better to let her concentrate on escaping. From there, we can try using the rocks to crack the tempered glass. It's probably not going to produce enough force to shatter it, but not trying this would be far more stupid than trying and failing. I would also use a shower head to my advantage, because we can use the cool water to bring down our core body temperature before we pass out from the heat. If she did any of this, not only would she have bought herself more time, but she also would have noticed that one of the rocks was different, revealing a magnet inside. The only other metallic objects are the rods, and at that point, the riddle on the door wouldn't even matter. Now, lastly, there was one interesting detail that told us this has nothing to do with her husband. She might not be able to recognize the handwriting, but no self-respecting middle-aged man would make their periods into circles like they were Japanese schoolgirls. These ellipses here are a dead giveaway that her husband did not write this, and someone even more sadistic is behind it. Now, there are 4 more escape rooms, and each one has hidden clues just like this that will tell us who designed them, and trust me, it's not who you think it is either. But what this mysterious Death King designer doesn't realize is that there's actually a much better way for him to get his adrenaline fix. Mech Arena is a fast-paced mech shooter game that focuses on team PvP, and if you enjoy playing with your friends like me, this tactical 5v5 shooter is a perfect balance of casual fun with still competitive play, and none of your friends have to die in the process. I was honestly shocked by how well Mech Arena captures the magic of playing PC and console shooters with your friends. My personal favorite mechs and weapon combos are the Panther mech with a dual thermal lance shooting through stasis barriers like it's a beach, using the Lancer mech to leap and kill my enemies with a javelin rack, or rocking the dual RPGs on the Killshot mech and finishing people off with a melee dash when my ammo runs out. It's a ton of fun, and Mech Arena allows you to really express yourself with their awesome skins, including the ability to apply different paint levels to your mech, and unlock different unique personalized skins by using their fortune tokens. Mech Arena has ongoing in-game events, as well as a great login rewards program, which you definitely don't want to miss out on. Use my link in the description or scan my QR code to get it for Android and iOS right now for free. And as a bonus, you'll receive 1 live card skin, 308 coins, and 50,000 credits to help start your game with a bang. So don't wait around. Add me to your friends list, my username is how to beat, and join me for some matches. Thank you to Mech Arena for sponsoring this video. So we invent here are looking at both of them retreat into playing a series of deadly escape rooms, and we're the only ones to make it out. This girl is determined to find out who the designer is so she can expose them, and thinks she's discovered a clue. Using the escape room logo, she finds coordinates that lead to downtown Manhattan, and together they decide to check it out. They get on the subway to follow the coordinates, but something doesn't feel right. There are only a handful of other passengers in this train car, and for rush hour in New York, that's really suspicious. to check out the conductor's room, but is horrified to find no one inside. Suddenly, their car decouples from the rest of the train, and everyone starts to panic as they fall further behind. That's when the track shifts rail lines, leading them down into an abandoned tunnel before it slams into the buffer stop. The boy tries to force the door open, but it won't budge, and now they're completely stuck with no way to escape. Desperate, this man presses the intercom and a message starts to play, telling them if they see a suspicious package, please find the nearest MTA employee. Nothing about this is normal, and Ben here tells Zoe that Minos, the escape room company, must have found them. Hearing this, the group is shocked, as everyone begins to realize that each person here has survived an escape room, and they've all just walked into their next death trap. That's when these Tesla coils pop out of the roof, as a high voltage current electrifies the train car, and touching anything metal will shock them. The bearded man Nate looks under his seat to find a hidden bag, but when he opens it up to the inside, a metal door handle falls out. Taking it off the ground, this man wraps his belt around the handle for installation and manages to open the train conductor's door. Looking inside, he finds a token slot, and above it, Zoe notices a sign that reads, "All false advertising must be pulled." It's their next clue, and Ben here knows exactly what to do next. Running back into the train car, he shows them that one of the adverts is missing the letter E, and the group splits up to search for more spelling mistakes. As the others find more clues, Zoe here counts the handholds in the car and realizes there are 26 of them. This could stand for each letter of the alphabet, and if they pull the handholds which represent the missing letters, they might get the subway tokens they need before they're all electrocuted. Okay, I'm officially impressed. I would be pissing my pants at the thought of being electrocuted to death, while these guys have already figured out how to find the next clue. That's exactly why I would want to be in their group, because the smarter your team is, the better chances you have of escaping. These people have already survived an escape room before, and that means we can use their experiences to solve these puzzles as fast as possible. Now, first of all, this group wasted time by waiting for the game to tell them what they should be doing. They shouldn't need an announcement to tell them to look for any suspicious packages, because the first thing we should be doing in any escape room is to immediately identify what we can interact with. That way, when the game does give you a clue, you are faster to respond because you've already found the pieces to the puzzle. That's why I would immediately check the handles, look under the seats, pull the brake stop, and push every button. If any of them are rigged, we'll be able to engage the escape room much more quickly without having to waste valuable time. We should also be trying to come up with time-saving tactics to increase our chances of winning. The perfect example are these handles that represent the alphabet. If I have to find the letter O, it means I have to count 15 handles before I find the right one, and that's time we don't have to waste. If there are 9 letters we need to complete the puzzle, that could add up to a full minute just in counting letters of the alphabet. By simply placing an item of clothing on the handle for the letter L, we could cut that time in half. Because if the letter we're looking for comes after L, we would only need to count from there instead. With 30 seconds to begin between life and death, this is without a doubt the best way to be thinking. Lastly, I would make one lucky person do nothing except to watch the monitor here that fills the word as we find more tokens. Because if he can solve it before the word is filled, then we won't have to run around looking for missing letters on the advertisements, and that's going to be the biggest time saver of them all. It might be the most important job in the entire escape room, and these battle-tested experts didn't even think about it. Checking the bag for more clues, they discovered that the lining inside is made of rubber, and this will induce suitcase to cut it into pieces. Each player will need one to touch the metal handles without being
Keep
shocked.
them distracted while I'm still surviving.
The blonde one notices that 2 of the handles are different colors. If the green one has the letter A,
That's it.
will be the letter C.
I want your bone.
Zoe pulls it down, and a token with that letter falls out. Their theory was correct, and Zoe puts it into the machine, telling her there are 8 more tokens left. Following her lead, the group manages to find more tokens, but with every one they find, the electrical currents get stronger. It's the deadliest game of Hangman you've ever seen, as the players crawl along the floor, avoiding the electrical discharge. This guy looks up to find the final 3 letters he's missing, but before he can tell anybody who they are, a bolt of electricity knocks him into a metal pole, and the man starts frying to a crisp. Taking a piece of rubber, the blonde woman tries to save him by knocking him to the floor, but the man's already dead. That's 1 player down and 5 more to go. With no time left to look for clues, Zoe reads the monitor and realizes it's spelling out the words "Welcome back." She tells the others they need to pull the handles for the letters W, B, and O, and they all work together to collect the last one. As Ben here inserts the final token into the coin slot, a trapdoor opens on the floor of the train, and the remaining survivors jump through to the other side. They've successfully escaped the puzzle, finding themselves inside an elevator that suddenly begins to descend. The lift finally comes to a stop, and the group takes a moment to introduce themselves. Zoe asks the others about the previous rooms they played in, and learns that each survivor was grouped with others who had the same occupations. Rihanna here was doors with lockers, and Nate here was in an escape room with other priests like him. But Ben feels that something is off. All of these players were allowed to go free, but when he won the game, someone tried to assassinate him, and Zoe here saved his life. The pattern doesn't make sense, but they'll soon find out that nothing is a coincidence. Okay, as much as I would love to hear about an escape room full of priests, having this discussion will not tell us how to stay alive. The group managed to escape with the skin of their teeth, but have already lost one of their most valuable players. This guy was clever enough to use his leather belt as insulation before anyone even realized that there was rubber inside of the bag. But they were caught off guard without a game strategy, and the time they wasted got this man killed. This is exactly why we need to take advantage of this elevator. Right now they have a rare moment in between two escape rooms where they aren't facing any danger at all. If it were me, I would stay here as long as it takes to come up with a plan for the next room, because our lives depend on the other strangers in the group. And if any of them make stupid decisions or don't use their time wisely, it could get everyone killed. This elevator is the best chance we'll have to organize ourselves, assign roles, and establish positive chemistry so that everyone walks through this door with a specific agenda that benefits the whole group. Instead, they told each other sob stories about their past, and it was a total waste of everyone's time. Hearing a loud rumbling noise, the group rushed to the elevator doors to find themselves in a massive underground bank, and on the other side of the room is an open vault. Zoe here tests the locks on the front doors, but that's when a voice on the intercom announces that the security system has been armed. Without thinking, Rihanna here steps into the checkered floor, activating a field of deadly lasers that burn straight through the woman's skin. One wrong move and she's dead, but the others slowly guide her to move out of the laser's grid. They finally pull her to safety, and as soon as she steps out the checkered tile, the lasers immediately shut off. They all realize this entire floor might be rigged, and that's when the voice announces they have 10 minutes until their only exit here closes, with all lasers fully activated. The players start to look for another way across the tiles, but Nate here notices something strange in a bowl of lollipops, and picks one up to discover a key hidden inside. Taking the candy, Zoe here breaks it on the ground to remove the key, before climbing over the counter towards the deposit boxes. Ben here finds a special box that has the name Sonya on it, and realizes it must be their next clue. He tries the key and it works, but when he opens it up, tons of small diamonds come pouring out. Zoe reaches down to pick one up, but immediately cuts her finger on it. These things are sharp enough to draw blood, but this can't be a coincidence. The players on the other side find a similar box, but theirs has 2 stacks of blank bills inside. That's when Nate sees an ATM nearby with a special message telling them in order to get payment for the death of a loved one, he must enter a PIN. Ben here figures out that the ATM's clue is a reference to blood money, and if they put Zoe's blood on the bills, they might find the PIN number. The blonde woman is about to hand them over, but when she steps on the counter, the lasers suddenly turn back on. Losing her balance, she falls to the floor, but the lasers deactivate as soon as she steps off the counter. The woman survived, but they can't use the counters to solve the puzzle, and time is running out fast. Okay, this was really quick thinking from Ben here. He figured out that the diamonds and blank bills somehow added up to blood money, but this is actually a serious flaw in the game, because the only way to solve it is to cut your finger on the diamonds, and there's no guarantee that would even happen. If Zoe was more careful when she touched them, she wouldn't have cut her finger, and they might not have even considered that blood had anything to do with the clue at all. When solving the riddle requires a total coincidence like this, you know it's a flawed system, and they probably wouldn't have figured it out. Having said that, this room is more difficult than the last because it's much bigger. There are a lot more things to investigate and a larger area to search for them. When this group ran into the room, they were so distracted by the scale of the place that they missed these papers here and a bowl of lollipops. And noticing them could have saved as much as 1 out of their 10 minutes to escape. Despite this, there's always one instant clue they'll never need to look for, and that is the room itself. Each room has a theme, and the theme is already a hint that tells us what we should be searching for. In this case, it might include safes, keys, money, and PIN numbers, because they're all the things you would typically find in a bank. Now, as for the floor tiles, this one should have known better than to walk straight through the lobby like this. Every bank heist movie you've ever seen has lasers in it, and while this might seem obvious, there's actually a really important strategy here. When you see an empty floor like this, you should realize that the game's designers created the rooms by drawing from the same tropes and stereotypes that you are already familiar with, and this will help you anticipate where the dangers are coming from. Now, even though it's a terrible decision, she's actually done us a favor here, because now we can use this opportunity to study the laser pattern. If you look here, you'll see there might be enough room to crawl underneath them to reach the vault, but I would make sure somebody else tests this out for us, because it's obviously a dangerous idea. This game must have cost millions of dollars to set up, so if there were any convenient loopholes like this, they were probably already discovered before we even set foot inside. Zoe wipes her blood on the blank bills, revealing the PIN 0526. Nate here types in the 4-digit code as the clocks on the wall suddenly begin to shift. It's their next clue, and he figures out that the times are actually a code to make it through the checkered floor safely. The hour represents a cardinal direction, and the minute is the number of steps they need to take. With only 5 minutes left, Nate volunteers to test their theory, leaving lollipops to mark down every safe tile. The plan is working, and he makes it halfway through when one of the tiles sinks to the floor, revealing a combination safe on the other side of the room. Suddenly, the tile he's standing on displays their next clue, reading, "Money makes the world turn, don't let it stop or else it all ends." The group desperately searches the bank records for a 3-digit combination, but they're running out of time, and if they don't solve this puzzle, all of them will die. With no clues left to continue, Nate here decides to take a leap of faith and walks forward. The other players try to stop him, but he insists on letting God lead the way. That's when he steps on a tile that turns on the lasers, and he falls on the counter, decides to take a leap of faith and walks forward. The other players try to stop him, but he insists on letting God lead the way. That's when he steps on a tile that turns on the lasers, and he falls on the counter, knocking himself out. The women manage to pick him up and drag his feet off the tile to turn off the laser beams, but they still can't solve the clue. As the group begins to argue, Rihanna here suddenly realizes the riddle wants them to turn the lock without stopping. Running towards the safe, she twists it several times, and the dial pops out, revealing a secret container. Inside is a transparent graph, and with only 1 minute remaining, the woman throws it to the other group for Zoe to place it over the floor plate, revealing the complete path through the checkered floor. She stays behind and reads out the instructions so the others make their way to the vault door. With Ben carrying the priest to safety, they all make it to the exit, and Zoe runs as fast as she can, slipping in through the door at the last second before the lasers can slice her into pieces. Okay, they all made it
People
through to the
right
exit.
here being dumb.
It was definitely no thanks to this guy here. He decided to turn his brain off and trust God, knowing full well that he was putting everyone in danger. This is exactly why
That is a demon?
because one person's bad thinking can get everyone killed. And if I were in this situation, I would have told him to sit
Why
in
is
the corner
that
and pray
idiot?
for our success. It's not going to help, but at least he's going to feel like he's contributing without risking our lives in the process. Now, to his credit, it was starting to look like they wouldn't be able to solve the puzzle in time. And when there are no options left, we have to take bigger risks to stay alive. If it were me, I would have looked for mirrors around the bank, because if we could use them to deflect the lights, then we might be able to move across the laser grid without getting killed. Now, the most powerful lasers in the world can instantly vaporize any matter into a hot cloud of plasma. So as crazy as this looks, it's not science fiction. Even this guy managed to make a DIY super laser in his garage that can burn straight through metal. These things are scary, but using mirrors is a good strategy if things get desperate, and I'd be happy for this man to risk his life testing it out for us. Now, as for the actual puzzle, these guys are panicking too much to realize that the solution was extremely simple. They jumped to the wrong conclusion that they need a 3-digit number to unlock the safe without trying the easiest solution first. The riddle said, "Don't let it stop or else it all ends." Logically speaking, looking for a 3-digit code would be a complete contradiction of the riddle, because if you had numbers to open the lock with, you have to stop the dial on those numbers in order to input the code. So when the riddle says "don't let it stop," then looking for a combination is the worst conclusion you could draw here. On the other end of the vault door, the group finds themselves in a cave, and Ben here wakes Nate up, scolding him for almost getting Zoe killed. The girl tells him to calm down, and they all take a moment to catch their breaths, but the cave suddenly starts to collapse. The players all run out of the nearest exit before they're crushed to death and enter a beach-themed escape room with a lighthouse looming in the distance. But this one here wastes no time and has already found their first clue. Following the message on the Polaroid camera, she takes a picture and a blinding flash fills the room. When their eyes adjust, they notice the daylight has changed to sunset, and in the picture, they find a boat that's not in the ocean. The group thinks this is what they should be looking for and start searching through a pile of wreckage nearby. They find pieces of a metal detector inside and assemble it before scanning the rest of the beach for their next clue. But that's when they pass 2 mannequins staged in a strange position. Zoe here thinks this must mean something, but suddenly the metal detector goes off, alerting them to a large metal object hidden below. Together, they dig into the sand and uncover an anchor that must have belonged to the boat in the picture. Ben tries to pull it out and realizes it's tied to something buried further down. But when the rest of the group helps him pull harder, the rope suddenly snaps. It gets sucked beneath the sand, and that's when they all notice that the beach floor is starting to bubble. It's turning into quicksand, and the blonde woman is standing right in the middle of it. They try to save her with a life buoy, but she's too far out of reach and gets pulled underground.
Reported in the New York Times.
Hold it like this? Yeah.
I love finding out things that other people don't want me to know.
The players are shocked, but Nate here decides to rescue her, tying a rope around his waist before diving headfirst beneath the surface. And that was the dumbest decision he could possibly make. The group desperately pulls on the rope, and Nate manages to lift the woman out of the sand as the others pull her to safety. But when they try to rescue the priest, the rope snaps, and the man is dragged straight into the afterlife. That's now 2 players down, and 4 more to go. Okay, this guy literally tied a lifesaver to himself and dove in, when it would have made a lot more sense to just throw the lifesaver. This sand will swallow anything no matter how light it is, so a lifesaver would sink down and the girl would be able to grab on. Risking 2 team members' lives instead of 1 is just bad logic, and if I were in this situation, I wouldn't have let him take that risk because he's still a valuable asset to the group. The more people we have, the faster we can solve clues that help us all survive, and by trying to be a hero, he once again put everyone else in more danger. But what nobody was expecting is that this is not your average quicksand. For starters, it's bubbling, which means that there's a strong current of gas coming from below the surface, so it's much easier to fall into because it's not thick like what you would find in the jungle. This sand is what's called a fluidized bed, which can turn the ground you're walking on into a liquefied soup. If it's spreading, then the whole beach is going to be a danger zone soon. And if we want to save this girl in time, then we have to act quickly. I would use this board here because it might be long enough to lay across the pit, so that each side is sitting on stable ground. Then, we can have someone crawl halfway across and reach their hand in to try and pull her out. Now, there's one situation where diving in might actually be the right decision. If we eventually found ourselves completely surrounded by the quicksand with nowhere to turn, the one benefit here is that this fluidized sand bed creates a frictionless surface. So even though we can sink down into it, we might also be able to swim across it just as easily. Science says that the frictionless sand will carry you across to the other side. It's just not logical that argument to convince someone to test the theory. If they survive, then we'll know it's a safe method we can use to cross it safely as well. With the quicksand spreading across the beach, the group has no choice but to grab the anchor and run towards the shack and leave their teammates behind. That's when we find an imprint in the door here, and Brianna places the anchor into the groove. Unlocking it, the players run inside to safety, and Zoe here finds a photo in the kitchen that says Bon Voyage. She realizes that this refrigerator might be their way out of cord and they want to escape. The group searches the building for a connector, but Zoe notices a hidden light switch here and decides to flick it on. That's when the whole room starts to shake, and the light outside suddenly turns to night. Looking out the window, Zoe here sees the lighthouse has turned on, and a ladder has come out of the side. There must be a clue up there, and she runs to check it out while the others stay behind to look for the missing cable head. Climbing up the lighthouse, she reaches the top and peers through the telescope to find their next clue. It's a message in a bottle that reads, "I can't see you," and she tells the others what she's found. Zoe's about to climb down from the lighthouse to join the group when she notices something strange about the moon's frame on the wall. Meanwhile, Ben here has already figured out the clue. He remembers the mannequin from earlier with shells on her eyes and realizes "I can't see you" is telling him exactly where to look. Ben runs over to find the mannequin sinking into the sand and removes one of the shells to find the cable head that they've been looking for. He brings it back to the others and they use it to plug the fridge back in, letting them finally open the door to the next room. But things are about to go horribly wrong. Zoe has taken off the moon's frame to discover a hidden exit, and she thinks it might lead them out of the game. She tells the others about the escape route, but Brianna here doesn't want to leave. Ben tries to convince her to join them, but there's no more time to argue, and they head for the lighthouse, leaving her behind. The blonde woman makes it up the ladder just in time, but Ben isn't so lucky. As he's climbing towards them, the handholds start retracting, and just as he reaches the top, the boy loses his grip. Zoe can only watch in horror as he falls into the quicksand, making that 3 players down with 3 more to go. Okay, this is the first time we've seen 2 solutions to the same escape room, and there's no way we could have expected this to happen. That's why it's actually a terrible idea for Zoe here to be investigating this moon. When you're minutes away from death and you already know where the exit is, you wouldn't want to spend the last moments of your life breaking off a set prop based on just a random hunch. She got very lucky that this actually led somewhere, because otherwise she would have been dead and all the others would have escaped through the fridge without her. Now, as for the others in the shack, they weren't using their time wisely either. Instead of racing around the room looking for a clue they can't even solve, I would have used my time doing everything I could to open that fridge. I mean, look at this thing. There's nothing here that says they wouldn't have been able to force the door open if they hadn't tried, but they got too stressed out to focus their energy into something more constructive. It's the exact same thing that happened in the bank with the combination lock, because they turned their brains off to search for another PIN number instead of investigating the door they needed to open. They need to get better at responding to each new environment before it gets the better of them, and the best way to do that is to consider how the place has been designed as soon as they enter the room. If you take a step back and look at the environment here, you realize the escape escape room designer has her thumbprint on everything in the game, and by paying attention to the patterns that emerge, we might be able to predict the designer's decisions and advance the room much faster without wasting valuable time. First of all, we know that somewhere on this beach is a door to the next room, and that door needs to be placed somewhere structurally sound. This makes it most likely to be against the wall or attached to a sturdy building. So instead of having the whole group walk along the beach together, they should have sent somebody off to find the exit while the others look for clues. They also should have realized that the game designer will somehow use the sand as a threat to push them further into the escape room, because running from danger will always lead them to their next clue. It's exactly like the bank floor in the last room, because the laser grid encouraged them to explore the sides behind the counter. Thinking like this is one of the best ways to hack the game without cheating, because we can easily identify false clues, which items to interact with, and the natural path of each room as we progress through it, instead of wasting that time playing tic-tac-toe. Zoe is frozen in shock, but the blonde one pulls her through the exit and into the tunnel. They're lucky to be alive, but Zoe here is too traumatized by her friend's death to continue. Trying to comfort her, the blonde reveals that she can't feel physical pain, and in the previous escape room, she had to face sadistic puzzles built specifically to torture her. They need to stop the mastermind before more people suffer, and it gives Zoe here the will to continue. Together, the two players explore the room when they suddenly hear the sound of traffic above them. Finding a ladder, they climb it and discover it leads them back to the streets of Manhattan. They finally escape the game, but that's when Brianna here comes running out, telling them to keep the manhole open. Suddenly, a cover pops into place, closing out their exit, and the background starts to glitch out. Zoe here realizes they're inside another escape room, and this one is the most brutal of them all. Brianna here warns them that for this puzzle, it's going to start raining acid as soon as the timer hits 0, and she thinks that this door's their way out, but the doors are locked. The group notices graffiti of an angel holding a key, and a message that says, "I'll always be watching over you, May 26." Looking above the shop, the players realize there's a cloud-shaped sign hanging over the building, and the missing key must be on the rooftop. Climbing up the ladder, Brianna here goes to search for it and discovers the key is attached to the ring. With 30 seconds left, she throws the key down to the blonde, who quickly uses it to open the padlock.
If I get all red out of this, or something that I really want, or 200 or 300 crafting materials, and then I will sell my Fortnite account. And oh, it ain't happening. It's not happening, child. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's not happening. 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 I gotta put this on the gun because it's gonna gun. Alright guys, I don't even got the skin. See, that's how stupid they look. Look at him. Look at him. He got the worst things ever. Like, what is this? And what is this? This the voice skin. What is this? What is this? What is this? This is the best one out of all of them. Right here, bro. Right here, bro. Right here, bro. Right here. Right here. Hold on. Right here, bro. Right here, bro. Right. Hold on. Right here. Right here, bro. No, right here, bro. Wait, no, right here. Wait, right here, bro. See, this the best one. Jack, I'm about to get another win. My bands. Bloodline. Go get it. Bloodline. 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 Bloodline right here, the bubbles. Woo! Just got another win, chat, on stream, last game. Oh boy, hey! And I don't got 1 win to let y'all know. I got 8 wins to let y'all know. And I don't got 32 wins to let y'all know. I got 59 wins to let y'all know. Top rank, last match! You hear Bubba get it? You hear Bubba get it? You hear Bubba get it? If we don't win this match, I'm selling my Warzone account, Fortnite account, I'm selling everything. I'm selling my Fortnite account, Warzone account, and my Apex account. I'm not really gonna do that. But if we do win, I'ma sell something because I do need some money. Because I gotta buy stuff for my boy over here named Octane. Tony Martinez. I'm out. Ooh, what gun is this? Oh yeah, it's fire. I'm coming, boy. Keep him. Play with me. Play with me. Hey yo, play with me. What guns did they have? I need this. Play with me. Play with me. Brown. Brown. Dun, 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 dun. Oh yeah, chat, I'm gonna make a new music video. Haven't did that in about 7 months. But I'm doing it. I'm doing it and doing it and doing it again. I'm doing it and doing it and doing it again. Chat. Chat. About to go crazy, man. About to go crazy, man. You heard it. You heard it. We about to go crazy, man. Like every game, we about to go crazy, man. That's not even Kip. That's not Kip. That's not even Kip. That's not even Kip. That's not Cap. We about to go crazy, man. We about to go crazy, man. We about to go crazy, chat. We about to drop like 8 kills. I'm about to break it. 9 kills or 10 kills. My highest 10 kills. No games. Let him in. Let him in. Move. Move. I got it. Move. Nice. Teammate. We about to go crazy, man. I don't even know what gun to trade for this because I love this gun so much. I don't even know what to do. But I'm about to get that. About to get that, get that, and I'm about to get that too. So, you know. Chat, I know. I know. Chat. One hit. Watch your back. Watch your back! Watch your back! Yo, real one! Watch out! Behind you. He wasn't a teammate. Man, you stupid. He at the bottom. Bro, you dumb. No. Use that. Use that. Just use it, bro. Get my card, bounce. Get my card and bounce. I said get my card and bounce. I didn't say fight. Bounce. Bounce. Get out of there. Get out of there. I said get out. You stupid. I'm already going crazy. You be supposed to get the baby. I'm about to go sell something, chat. I don't even care. I'm about to go sell something. I don't even care if you're going to get it or not. I'm selling something. What am I going to sell? I don't even know, Jimmy Bell. I don't even know, but I'm going to sell for real. Hold up, chat. I don't know what to do, man. Chat. Hey, yo, hello, mate. Hello, mate. What you doing? Alright, chat. Hold on, I'm about to take some pictures. Alright, so take some pictures. Get to my camera.